Welcome to our weekly discussion of all things current in California politics. I'm Walt Gray. Joining us this week, reporter Emiy Hoeven, a political expert for CalMatters.org. Emiy, nice to have you back. Good to see you again. So we're getting really rolling here with the recall and the campaign. The governor has taken a couple of hits lately. What do you look at when you see the recent polls? What does that tell you?
Yeah, some recent polls are showing that the governor really needs to turn out Democratic voters if he wants to hold on to his office. As it stands, Republican voters are really amped about this recall. They're going to go out there, they're going to vote in droves on September 14th. But the polls are showing that Democrats and independent voters are less aware of the recall, less likely to go out there and cast their ballots. And so if the governor wants to hold on, he better make sure they turn out. Otherwise, if it's a bunch of Republicans turning out and voting, then there's a good chance he could be thrown out of office. And we're sort of seeing that other things are not looking too good for him either. Although Newsom and the lawmakers moved up the date of the recall election to avoid fire season, to avoid a surge in COVID, both of those things are already happening. And so there's a likelihood that voters could be seeing all of these things going on, and that could influence how they end up voting in the recall.
Do you think that now that there's a spike in COVID, that the governor would be less likely to lock it down again because there's a recall election coming up?
I think what we're seeing him do is that he's trying to avoid these top-down statewide mandates. So recently he had this new rule come out that state workers and healthcare employees either need to get vaccinated or get tested on a weekly basis, which is not a vaccine mandate, but close to it. And then we saw him really encourage cities and private businesses and local governments to do that, which would sort of make him avoid having to do that himself, but then therefore he still gets the same exact policy. And we're seeing Los Angeles and Long Beach and some other cities actually implement the exact same policy that he did, which takes some of the weight off Newsom's shoulders. And in terms of a statewide lockdown, I don't know if we're heading in that direction, although the state is now recommending that all vaccinated Californians wear masks indoors. So I think we might see some of these softer policies that are recommendations. And a lot of people are already wearing masks anyway, so maybe they're thinking that could be enough to sort of tamp down this surge.
EDD is now auto-paying people with their unemployment benefits, people who've been waiting for a long time. Do you see auto-paying as being ripe for fraud?
I think it's definitely possible. You know, the EDD has had a backlog of hundreds of thousands of claims for months on end. And so I actually don't think it's any accident that we're now seeing them take this step to, potentially speed up payments for people. However, in so doing, they themselves acknowledge there's a possibility that it could open the door to fraud. They're saying that they're only going to auto pay benefits to people that have already verified their identity and who continue to certify their eligibility. However, as we know, there are people that got $31 billion worth of fraudulent payments, and they were able to verify their identity and get through those fraud filters. So I do think there's always that potential that things could go out the door that shouldn't be.
And we just hope everybody that needs to get paid gets paid as quickly as possible if this is how it's going to go. Hopefully it's fraud-free, if there is such a thing. Emiy, thank you. Cal Matters is a nonpartisan news organization explaining California policies and politics. Find their work at calmatters.org. You can also sign up for Emilie's newsletter there.